This is something I've heard.
And welcome to Musing Rants and Guitars. We have a special guest today, Chris Lane from the band Station. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris. How are you, man? Thank you so much.
So, to introduce ourselves real quick, I am Joey. I'm in the upper right. Lenny is below me in the lower right. Tommy is in the lower left. And Chris is in the upper left. So, welcome aboard, Chris.
How's everybody doing?
Very good. So, Lenny's the one that brought Chris to us. As a real quick thing, my band opened up for Chris one time at Lenny's club. We had a great time that night. So, Lenny, why don't you tell us a little bit of how you and Chris met up?
He walked in one night to see a band playing, and I'm like, "You're the guy from Station."
You're good like that.
I was a fan of the band, and I kind of really liked their music. And he came walking in, and I was just like, "What if?" So I went up and I asked him. I said, "Hey, you're the guy from Station, right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm Chris." And I was like, "How you doing?" And we just hit it off, became friends ever since. They played a bunch of times, and he's inviting me to shows that they've done at like Arlene's in the city, and was very kind enough to actually have me in one of the band's videos.
You are,
which was very, very cool.
That's cool.
Nice.
And he's an all-around gear junkie like the rest of us, and I said he'd be a perfect fit for this show.
Yeah, if you're a gear junkie, this is the show for you.
Yeah.
We got knobs on my.
We got a tiny tour so far. We're gonna make him drag his camera around the room again.
Yeah, we're gonna do that, but we're gonna get through the introductions a little bit, and then he's gonna show us all the shit and talk about it a little bit. So, so Chris, we had a show. I was trying to look at the date. I think it was 2018, right?
I don't know. We played at the Rail a bunch of times for very different reasons. Like we had a benefit there once, and actually, Len, I think the show that I met you at, I went to come see. I came to see Dell play.
Yes.
So Locoma is a band from Australia who I'm friendly with. And, he happened to be playing on Long Island where I live, so it was like, all right, well, it's a chance to see my buddy. So that was my introduction to the Rail.
Oh, okay.
And then we wouldn't let him leave unless, we got them to play there at some point. So that's kind of how it started,
Nice.
Was that the, Len, was that the show that GJ opened up there? With Dell?
That who?
Grimjack opened for Dell.
Yes.
Was.
You guys were on that bill.
Yeah.
And then you guys did a benefit together, I believe.
I don't
later on.
Yeah.
I can't
recall
the dates.
Honestly, this morning is fuzzy for me, so it's tough sometimes to,
Absolutely.
I don't even know where I am.
Yeah, we're doing this on a weeknight. This is not normal for us anyway. Like, who
are you guys?
I'm used to seeing these guys on a Sunday. I don't want to even see them during the week. But so cool. So Chris, what are you guys with this whole COVID thing, what are you guys doing right now?
Well, since everything with the virus has put the kibosh on touring, we've decided to just spend all of our time finishing our album. We were about 60% done with it, and then we were going to go out on a tour to promote our third album because it was the second part of a larger tour, and then everything got canceled. So instead we said, we can't really see the end of it. We don't know when touring can resume, so might as well just focus on recorded material, and we have the means to do so. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, like I was telling you guys earlier, it's like through technology, it's made it to the point where we can actually carry on with what we're doing. So, if this were a different time, I could see it just completely putting, a halt on everything. But because technology, the internet, and the wonder of a phone, we can talk to each other. We can talk about what we like. And yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it works.
Right. Yeah, like you go back a few years, you wouldn't be able to do this type of, like you guys can absolutely record now. And going back, 20 years, you couldn't do that. you know.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate that we have our own studio access. So I mean, it's to the point where it's I don't want to say it's easy again, but it's a pleasure to do so because we're not really constrained by anybody else but ourselves.
Right. Very cool.
So all you guys have like studios in their homes where you can just send ideas and work on stuff and hear what's going on and kind of piece things together?
Somewhat. So the way we do it is we don't do drums. So drums are completely outside of our scope, right?
I heard drugs. Anyway,
don't do drugs either.
We don't do drugs.
We don't do drugs. But we use, very good friend of mine, longtime partner of mine, Westfall Studios in Farmingdale. We do all the drums there. And what we do is we usually track drums because Tony, our drummer, he's an animal and he can go like 10 songs a day. So what we do is we go in for like 3 or 4 days. We get 2 albums worth of material that we're all comfortable with having, done like pre-production. We then take it home, and then pretty much everything used to be done in person together, and we build, like a standard recording. You build it, with your bass and then your guitars, your keyboards, singing. Now we basically let each one of us take pieces of it, and we're all involved through various communication methods, but they do their thing. So like we were about 60% done, like I said, with this album. We had already finished most of the guitars, most of the bass. So what it came down to was like, okay, guitar solos and keyboards. So since I have it here, I can finish that stuff, and we talk about it. So the next challenge will be the vocals, because we have to lay down the lead vocals, and we figured out a safe method of recording between Pat and I to make it so that he can come, we'll lock him in the isolation booth, and we'll get it done.
Very cool. Yeah, I was going to ask where you were doing the bulk of your recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that you can, you have the means to be able to do it now. Where even 10 years ago, trying to record your own material was rough. It was tougher anyway.
Well, it was funny too, because I mean, it's almost as if we planned the whole COVID thing, because this time last year, when we were starting to make the 3rd album, we decided to do it ourselves. And we had gotten very frustrated with the process of going to a studio. And the reason being was because we are very much a like being with our families kind of band. We're all friends and we're all like into hanging out. But what we don't like to do is lock away our business from our personal lives. So when we made our 2nd album, we were spending a lot of time in a dark room, listening to music, doing this, saying, should the goat be louder? And, it got to a point where it's like, the joke is, how do you know you're done with a recording? It's when you stop. And it's true. I mean, because you can just sit and think about it forever. So we said, rather than essentially pay for studio time, take time away from being able to have dinner with our families, we'd rather invest in building something for ourselves that we can always use. And because we have so much material, we can record more of it. It just so happens that was put to the test now, and luckily we made the decision to invest in it beforehand.
Right. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, all right, how about giving us a little tour of that studio?
I'm just sitting. I mean, it's pretty basic. We record through, modular mic pre's, obviously. Like, we favor things like the Chandler stuff and the Bintech stuff. It's really great. One of the things, and, speaking to being a gear nut, one of the things that my bassist and I, who we handle all the engineering together, we are very sensitive to using certain equipment for certain things. So, in the other room, we have a full isolation chamber, and right now I'm finishing some guitar solos. So, like my Wagner cab is mic'd up, and, we just change it out depending on what we're looking to do. I'm a personal fan of either really low recording or very loud recording. I don't really see I also see a value for the middle. Right. So like if I'm going through that like AC/DC power tube thing, blast it. But if I'm going for a little bit more of a clarity, nuance kind of thing, I personally love low volume recording. And that's, you can see in the background, I use my Ecstasy mainly because it is incredibly versatile, and it's one of the few amps that I've ever experienced where volume actually means volume. So it doesn't actually only mean tone. You know, because you
Right.
get a lot of older amps where you need to crank them that loud to get the tone. The Ecstasy is not like that, and I love that.
Awesome.
Wow.
Interesting.
Hmm?
Interesting, because the same thing with particular amps. Like, I have a Jubilee that if you don't play it loud, it doesn't sound correct.
Sure.
And the other ones, a couple of other ones, I can actually work with the master volume and make it sound like it's something. But the Marshall Jubilees need to be pretty much on 7 or 8 to actually get to that place where it needs to be. It's interesting that I would think that the Bogner would need the same thing, just because it's of that wattage.
You know what? Like it's surprising too, because it's the Ecstasy itself is built on 3 channels. 2 channels mimic each other, and what it does is it allows gain staging, which is like my favorite part of playing the guitar for the different types of gain. I don't like saying, oh, it's that pedal tonight. I like the idea of building on gain. So for me, one of the surprises was that I prefer hitting the power tubes with any kind of boost and not the front end of the amp. And because of that, I can keep it low, hit the power tubes, increase that volume just a little bit, but get the saturation to just go over the top. And to me, that's just I love it. I love Bogner stuff. Bogner's been great with me, and they just build great stuff.
Who was that? Joey Truffaut last time was like, and Reinhardt takes the amp, and then I break it, and he brings it back, and I give it to him. He's like, "Why'd you break my amp?" And he fixes it and brings it back to him.
Yeah, absolutely. That was Joey that said that, right?
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah, I'm a Bogner fan too.
Yeah, you're a Bogner guy too.
And they're great to deal with. Like when they sent us the cab last summer to start with it, because what we were using was I use a mixture of different cabs in our chamber. So like right now, I think I'm hooked up to a 4x12 with vintage 30s, but we were using a 1x12 with the greenback in it, and I was able to kind of bounce back. And then, with the recording process, especially with guitars, you want to blend guitar tones. Yeah. So, having all these options available and not having to worry about, I have to completely fundamentally set something new up. It's amazing. It's a recording guitarist dream.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, it makes some really quality stuff. My Shiva is a 112,
right?
And I've never seen a 112 that acted and responded like a 412.
Yeah.
Of course, the weight behind it too. When it's 80 some odd pounds for a 112 combo is a bit ridiculous, but that's what you're paying for.
I
totally fucking worth it. But I agree with you on the it's one of the my stack of Marshalls over here. They have to be at a certain volume to really, me and Tommy were doing this test run for this thing we're working on, and it sounded good. And then I said, "Hey, let me turn it up." And as soon as I turned it up, what did I have it at, like a 6 or 7, where it was fucking killing us? But it sounded so fucking good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we did. We actually took a bunch of the amps in the studio to just start to work on the project, and realized for what we were working on that those particular amps needed to be really loud to get to the tone.
Yeah, and it wasn't cranked dirty. I was using the clean. I was actually using using one of the DSLs on the green channel and just cranking it loud. And that thing's got a sweet spot that's it's up there in volume, but just
that's the DSL, because I started with a DSL and I still have one, and that's actually what put me on the path towards Bogner. Mm-hmm. So I love the Marshall ESLs, and I found gigging with them very early in the band's career was not problematic, but just difficult, because I always had to adjust my volume.
Yeah.
And in station, I play the guitar solos, but our music is it's not very I don't pop in and out a lot. I'm very much part of the tapestry of the band, and then I play a guitar solo, so I step forward and I go right back in. It's not one of those things where it's like call and response with a lot of players who, will go back and forth with the singer. So for me, one of the problems I always had was that I couldn't figure out how to take something and pop out at that time without fundamentally changing everything about the tone, because I'm adding the volume, and then putting it back in where it doesn't sound like a different instrument to me.
Right.
So about 6 or 7 shows in, my friend was really into Carvins, and I got a Carbon V3, and it's an amazing amp to tour with. Relatively inexpensive, built like a tank. It's never let me down. And, you know, I carry this a lot of times as a backup rig, or if the Ecstasy, actually it's right there. If the Ecstasy is tied up because we're recording and I don't want to move it, I'll just take that out and use it. And it's the same principle. It sounds great, low volume, but because I can switch between mimic channels, I don't have to worry about actually fundamentally changing the tone as I increase volume. I can just change the channels. So it just, you know, I mean, I think it's a little bit more about because it helped me and it was a little bit more practical. That's why I ended up liking amps like that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Like that.
Awesome. Yeah, the DSLs, I mean, the nice thing about them, I guess, you know, you can still get them for like $500. You know, you can get them anywhere, any studio you go to. So if you can kind of get used to it, you know, it's a nice amp to
They're a good amp to be used to.
Yeah.
And
Again,
they have a great
you know,
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're any place where you know have to rent, you can probably get one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a
Yeah,
great
you know,
thing about it.
It changes too whether or not you're a player when you tour, if you rely on pedals or the amp. Because I use no overdrive pedals. I use a slight boost for solos. So the sound of my gain is the amp. So you know what I mean? Like I need the consistency because I just need to know what I'm working with.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So why don't you tell us what do you have in the rack back there?
Yeah.
The guitar rack?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on back
show us
there?
what you got there. We got all you know we love the gear. So give us a real a quick rundown of what you got there.
All right. So like I said, I'm doing guitar solos now.
Yeah.
So this is set up for guitar solo.
Perfect.
Right.
We couldn't ask for any better.
Yeah.
Isn't that the best time, right?
Yeah.
Aren't we always set up for guitar solos? Like the other guys.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah. This is, you know, I misspoke. This is very true. So
what you want to say is I'm not set up for rhythm right now.
That's right. That's right. Well, so on this record, there are 3 different types of guitar sounds. One is direct, which we're using the Rivera Rock Crusher Studio up there, which is an amazing piece of gear, especially for cleans. It's got an EQ on it to mimic cabs, and I find that I really like the sound of DI clean. I never thought I would. I thought that was like sacrilegious, and I love it.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yeah. It's something because it allows you to control, doing a DI, it allows you to control the nuance of a lot of chorusing and delay that I like to add. So, you know, you go with something like the ADA GT6, which is the G6 rather, which is a cab clone, and it does it in stereo. So all of a sudden you can have a wet, dry, wet rig real fast with a clean sound, and that's amazing.
Nice.
So just going down, you know, normal compressor, the DVX 160. This is the full tone, that 80s chorus, which is amazing because it's so deep. Yeah, and the great thing about it too is that, you know, it's like every guitar player has a different preference. Do you want chorus before the amp or after the amp? It changes depending on where you put it. And that's what's so great about it, because it's consistently good, but it just does something different depending on where in the chain it is.
Right.
So sometimes for like deeper sounding kind of rhythm tracks, we'll just put that on and you won't hear chorus. You'll just feel the width expand. And it's great. You know, I mean, it's Zakk Wylde for days if you like that, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
Yeah, so then this is all set up modularly with a patch bay, because if I had to spin that thing around every 10 seconds, I would go crazy.
Yeah.
So because we do all the signal splitting, I've got a range splitter. This way I can achieve the wet, dry, wet with a live setup, and we can record simultaneously. And then, you know, it's kind of standard stuff after that in terms of rack gear. I mean, I've got 2 D2s, a Lexicon, what unit is that? MX400? I don't know. The knob is broken from that currently. And then
that happens too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I knocked it off, and now I have to use before it gets fixed, because it was going to get fixed before the virus, and then this happened, and my delays were all screwed up now. So, and then different reverbs. Personally, I like the old low bit Alesis stuff for certain types of sounds, and then I like the Lexicon for the breath. But, you know, like I said, that's just rack setup. And And, you know, I mean, there's like one-off stuff too in there. I mean, like the G major's in there, and the SPX 900, if you do want to be Zach Wild for the day, you know, I mean, like it's a great thing. But then there's like the pedal setup. So if we're not using the rack stuff, I pretty much, I like MXR, TC Electronics, and Strymon. So it's just various different pedal setups, and, you know, I like to acquire pedals for different sounds. So just depending on what I'm needing, I like to use it.
Awesome. Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you're tracking the solos through the Bogner through it's in the 412's in isolation right now. And what other speakers would you use besides the 30s that you've been using?
So right now there are two Bogner cats. So our isolation chamber is 8 feet tall by 8 feet. It's 8 feet tall. I think it's 8 by 8 by 4. So it's a rectangle.
Yeah.
And it's completely soundproof, which is amazing. So it doesn't interfere with anything control-wise. And we switch it basically between the, I think it's the Shiva cab, actually, the one with the greenback in it, a 112, and then the 412 that Bogner built for me and sent. So we have it mic'd up in four different ways that we switch between. Sometimes it's just 257s. Sometimes it's I have a warm audio clone of the U87, the WA87, which I really like. It was much more affordable than a Neumann.
Yeah.
But depending on the kind of solo, because like I said, I favor low volume recording most of the time, I can use them all in conjunction and not worry about blowing one of the microphones. So I usually just stick with the 257s and then the condenser probably about a foot away. So this way I capture a little bit of the air moving.
All right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Wow.
cool.
Very good.
Yeah, we're very into it. I love colors. You know what I mean? So like the more colors I can have, the more paintbrushes. I love the idea of like waking up and saying, oh, I want to do that with this because I want to, not being constrained to only one type of setup.
Right.
Hmm?
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, when you have, obviously you're not touring right now, but previously, tell us, have you had any long tours?
Oh yeah, we tour around the country.
Awesome.
So
You've done the Rocklahoma, you've done the M3 things, you've opened for a lot of the guests that we've had on our show so far. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You've
Yeah,
opened-
we just, not recently anymore, but the tour before everything got canceled was 2.5 weeks out through the Midwest. And the original plan was we were to come home right before Thanksgiving, prep for album 4 in December, January. At the end of February, we had a show, a one-off. We had another one-off in March. And then we had a full tour booked in late April and early May. And I got sick right after our show in New York City. And ironically, we actually had to cancel the tour before the tour got canceled on us because I got sick. Little did we know what was coming, but so yeah, we were promoting our third album, Stained Glass, and it's a shame because it feels like it was all kind of taken away from us with all the promotion because we got 2.5 weeks on the road. You know, I mean, like we play a lot, and it's not going to be that way for this album.
Right. Yeah. Any plans on when you get a release and what are you going to do once it's released if nobody is playing out yet? You know, like usually, like us original bands, like I'm an original band also. I mean, we rely on going out and playing in order to get that merch, get the stuff heard.
Yep. Get stuff heard, get seen.
Yeah.
Sell the merch.
The live element of the business is essential. We're very, very fortunate that recording can occupy all of our time and we can do recording comfortably. So we're not at the point where we're like, oh my God, we have to tour. One of the things that, again, it sounds like we kind of planned this whole mess, but like one of the things we talked about in investing in a studio was, do we have to tour? Do we have to play the same amount of shows after each album? Because, when we released our first album, I think we played over the next 2 years 130 shows. Because we travel a lot and we own our own bus and we really we go out for a long time. And we were saying to ourselves, is that necessary? We love playing live, but at the same time, does it make more sense, because we have so much material, to release 2 albums and then do that, 3 albums and then do that, a song and then do that? So, as we were kind of retooling the business side of things in terms of how it meshed up with our creative stuff, we kind of said to ourselves, touring is not essential. Touring is preferred when it makes sense. So we kind of converted to that mentality. So, but this sucks for everyone, because it not only, everyone likes to think about the touring first. Obviously, you can't play a show, right? Which,
Right.
Obviously, I get it. But what it's also doing is it's also jamming up release schedules, because, now you have a bunch of bands at every single level competing for the same real estate over what? It's going to be a 6-month period when things start to loosen up a little and hopefully things get a little bit back to normal. That's going to be a nightmare for a band like us, who, we're not loud enough to cut through a lot sometimes. And we have to figure out how to negotiate that world.
Oh, that's good. I think you brought up a point that no one else has brought up, that once the floodgates open, there's going to be, a glutton of A-level people who have been standing by too, right?
Absolutely, every level, yeah.
I mean, everything. There have been, anywhere from the farewell tours for Judas Priest and Kiss, which are high dollar tickets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to, okay, all right, should I spend the $500 on do this, or should I spend the $200 on this, or the $100 on this, or the $50 on this? I mean, and a lot of our friends will do all sorts of things. They'll see who they like,
right?
But there are people who will absolutely dive into the fact that they've been dying to see Judas Priest, and this is the last time they're going to see them. Things like that. So there's a lot of different mentalities, a lot of different releases going to have to be cut through the noise, like you said, and even probably big bands too are gonna be battling for this stuff. So
yeah, everyone's battling at their level, and something that weighs on us is that we're not a new band, but we're a band that's growing, and we don't want to see the growth stop. So something that's concerning about that is that we were just talking about this, but our last tour that we did was our best tour for the band, and in a lot of different ways. And we said to ourselves, wow, the next tour after that will be better, because we believe in it. And then the tour after that will be better. Everyone's in this together. Everyone's at the same place.
Sure, yeah.
Every band is being held for the same amount of time. So it's not like someone is advancing and we're not. But the conversation was like, okay, well, if we were here in November, are we going to, whenever this starts again, start out there? Is it going to be here? Is it going to be here? And that's a tough thing, because it fundamentally changes your strategy. And it stresses me out. Do I have to use the mono rig or a stereo rig on stage? So, we have to figure that out.
Right.
It's definitely going to be an oversaturation.
Yeah.
It's just going to be like everything at once. It's like, are you going to be able to get the same gigs? Are places going to be honoring cancellations from the year before? So it just throws that balance completely off. It's like, what do you do at that point?
Our shows didn't get rescheduled, because a lot of bands, what happened was that when everything kind of started going south in March, especially if you're in New York and, you saw everything devolve around you, everyone started rescheduling for September or August or, you know what I mean? Like that was just, it seemed to be the thing. We didn't do that. And the reason we didn't do that was because, like I said, I had gotten sick. And then by the time I started to get better enough to have a conversation about, when can we do this? Everything had gone to hell. So there was no period of time for Station where we made plans and then pre-canceled them.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Rough times, man. I had gigs scheduled for August, and that got shut down too. So
I had the summer booked, doing.
Right.
And it was, things were moving right along. We've talked about this with a few of our friends who live by the gig economy, right? Their solo acoustic, the wedding band friends and stuff. This is their time. June and July, May, June and July are huge months for them, where they can, coast through, the couple of months after summer, and December picks up again, and then it all drops down again till the summer, and that's how they plan their year. And to get it just crushed in March, it has been difficult for a lot of our musician friends as far as that goes. So
absolutely.
And even things, yeah, it's just
there's no timeline in this. It's not
there's no timeline.
Yeah,
No.
so it's impossible to plan. So like, I wish I could say to you, push it to January 2nd. It'll be good by then.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
right.
Well, they're technically not saying till the fall of next year. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors. I'm things are people I'm working with are still booking stuff, and I'm getting things. Okay, can you do August? I'm going, I can do whatever. I have nothing booked. You book it, it's not going to happen, but book it.
Yeah, go ahead.
make sure you get the deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. All right. How about you giving me just to stand by? Because I stand by every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Exactly.
But,
All right, Chris. I haven't done this as a section, but I wanted to do that. I want to add this in as one of our segments. So you've done a lot of touring and stuff. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Give us your Spinal Tap moment when something went so fucking wrong. You got one?
Oh yeah. We have tons.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
We are like one of the bands that like we're not unlucky. Like I don't want to make it sound like that, but
Right.
it's just the universe has some kind of strange sense of humor with us. So like it's just we're really normal people. Like we're never doing anything that's like, what are those guys up to? Like that we're just normal, we're all hanging out, and then just weird shit happens to us.
Yeah.
One of my more stressful Spinal Tap moments was I can't remember where we were, but we're on stage and we are the headline band, and we had just done our sound check, and basically we finished sound check, and one of the opening band, I guess the guitar player, when he came in, he asked me if I had like a cable or something. He asked me to borrow a cable. And I mean, I am prepared for doomsday guitar style. So I don't have one
Right.
cable, I have 30 with me.
Right.
Not a problem. So I give him the cable, and I guess I just said to him, like, leave it by the side of the stage or whatever. So he must have like put it down right near the stairs going into the green room in the back. So we're about to get on stage, and I hit the guitar to make sure it's going to make some noise. The monitors are on, speakers are not on, so I can kind of fiddle and not disrupt anything. And it doesn't work. And I'm like, oh man, something has gone wrong. So quick analysis, I figure out it's actually my cable that goes from the amp out to the pedal board, because I go direct into the amp and I'm wireless, so there's nothing between us.
Right.
So I'm like, oh shit, I need a new cable. And I noticed that the guitar player that I had lent the cable to had left it right there. And I'm like, there's one right there, not a problem. So I grab it, and it's one that I had picked up earlier in the day at a guitar center because I guess I was running low. So I plug it in, it still doesn't work. And it's a brand new cable. I don't know how this is not working. And I'm like, I've got the flashlight in my mouth. I'm behind the amp. I'm like looking at all the connections. Everything is totally fine. The cable is just dead. And like the chances of that happening 2 cables in a row is like nothing.
Right.
So Pat, my singer, who knows very little about guitar cables, comes over and he starts like tapping it. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to work. And he's like tapping it. He's like, no, maybe it'll come back on, like Fonz. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm like, it doesn't work like that. And he taps it, and it comes on, and it starts working. And I'm just like, I'm completely floored. And I'm like, how did you do that? He's like, I don't know. So we play the show. It works, no complaints. And I go back and I look at it, and it's this cable that has a switch on it. You can actually turn the cable on and off with a button. I had never seen this before. So I'm plugging it in, and apparently had the button off. I'm like,
Dario.
Yeah. I'm like running around trying to get everything to work. I just haven't turned the cable on.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one before. And, again, like I'm making fun of Pat, who's like touching the cable, and he gets to turn on by just slapping the button on.
Oh, that's classic. and it's got to be close to time, so you're starting to sweat. Like, we got to get this shit going, right?
Well, so like I have a backup rig always set up, so it gets to that point where you're like, it's time to use the backup rig. You know what I mean? So like it's that beforehand.
Yeah. Well, that's funny.
You know, it's funny. Joey and I are in technology, and there are times you have to back out.
Yeah.
And that's like the worst fucking time. All of a sudden, you're like, all right, we're 3 hours in, we got to back out. I'm like,
yeah. Do we have enough time to back out so everybody can get back to work in the morning?
Right. And he's sitting there going, I'm not backing out.
Yeah.
I'm freaking doing this. I'm not backing out. So, yeah.
So just tap the cable. Just tap the cable.
So
I like that one. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, literally, if something doesn't work on stage, he will literally turn to me and goes, "Did you turn on the cable?"
That's great.
So we have fun with it, though. I mean, like nothing should be really taken too seriously. But like I said, you know, we're not unlucky. It's just that like that stuff happens to us all the time. Like I once thought I was on fire on stage, like actually on fire on stage. Like we were playing a show, and so I have arthritis in my hands, and I use you know, like when you go camping, you know, like they make the hand warmers, you break them and they warm up. Yeah. So sometimes if it's rainy out or I'm not feeling particularly great, and I don't have bad arthritis, but it's there, I will use the hand warmers to just loosen up my hands. So we're somewhere, and I guess it was one of those days where I needed the hand warmer, and I've got the hand warmers, and I'm doing this. And someone's like, "Oh, Chris, come here," and I don't even think about it, and I put the rest of them in my back pocket.
Oh yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've done that.
And yeah, I'm on stage, and I must have just lunged forward, and I must have broke them, and they start heating up. So I'm like mid guitar solo, and I can feel this intense heat. And he turned my amp because like the first thing I thought was something was on fire. And, you know, I turned to Pat. I'm like, "Pat, I think I'm on fire." And I'm like mid solo. And he's like, "Dude, you're on fire." I'm like, "No, dude, I'm on fire." And I had to like run off. It burned a hole in my jeans. It was horrible.
Oh my God.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Well, we learned. Don't put those in your pocket.
Never again.
I put one in my pocket once, and I had change in my pocket too. Apparently change and those things don't go very well together either. So that was not fun.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. Well, I know you're on a little bit of a time constraint, so let's go into our segments because I definitely we have a lot more that we could talk with Chris about.
Great conversation so far, man.
Yeah,
I have some time, so I cleared the rest of the night, so don't worry about that.
All right, cool. So, all right, you guys got another question here? What else you got?
How much is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
So, Chris, when you're recording, are you primarily using the Jackson guitars, or are you doing anything different?
No, I mean, for like electric guitar, I like my Jacksons. As much as I'm into gear, I am not super into different guitars. Like I'm one of those guys who's like, I'll just stick with the same guitar all the time. Like give me new pedals, amps, play whatever to play with, but
right.
I've got my guitar. I like my guitar. Like I don't even change my guitar during a set. I'll commit to one for the whole show.
Okay.
Very good.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm much that way too. Don't look behind me. Don't look behind me.
I just switch guitars during the show.
Yeah. I generally bring 4 or 5 to each show because I'm a dick.
You have to carry them?
Yeah.
I actually got a roadie that I share with Tommy.
All right. Well, I mean,
because I use 4 or 5 guitars too, and he's just used to it at this point.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Well, you know, I do some open tunings and stuff too, so, you know.
We don't have on the records we have guitars with different tunings, but live there are no alternate tunings to really need, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I have the ability to just literally have the one guitar to suit all my needs, assuming I happen to.
That's great. Yeah.
Right.
And what Jackson is he using?
My main guitar is an SL1. I really like the single in the neck.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the deeper, more rhythm stuff, I use my SL2H. Those guitars just they do a lot of things very well, but for what I like in the sound, they do that perfectly. And I love them. I love the way they feel. They're much thicker than your average like shreddier guitar.
Right.
So it's you know, I like a substantial piece of wood rather than something really thin. You know, if you ever look at my hand when I play, I'm like the worst player ever. So my hands are all, you know, sideways and whatever, and
Yeah.
I just find they suit the shape of my hand.
Right. Wait,
Cool.
hold your hand up again.
Like this.
Oh, look at that fucking guy, dude.
Claw.
Yeah, he's got those long ass fingers, like fucking.
Yeah, I
Vine.
know. We
Fuck this
pretend by moving him closer to the camera. Look at the size of that hand.
Yeah.
It's,
No,
look at-
I look
get that
like
thing,
I look
man.
like I have baby midget hands over here. Which is really good when I. Never mind. I mean, that's a different story.
It seems huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, little hands. Save money on gloves.
Yeah, it does.
There you go.
All right. So, so live. Run us through your live rig. What are you using when you go out live?
So, you know, it depends on the tour because we don't really see consistency that often, which is interesting, but also problematic from a gear standpoint. So the rig that I like most taking out is a stereo rig. What I do is I go straight into the amp. So, you know, if it's the Ecstasy, I'll go straight into the Ecstasy via my wireless, and then I'll come out and I'll hit stereo. I'll go through a boost, but then I'll hit stereo chorus, my delay setup, reverb, and then more delay. And then I'll come back out to create a stereo signal. So basically it'll feed a slave and it'll go back to, the main amp. What I like to do though is I don't particularly like using reverb live unless it's like a super pristine clean tone.
Yep.
Which is very rare to need. So I'll even use reverb specifically on our set list. You know what I mean? So what I like to do instead is I like to cascade my delays. And I usually have 3 or 4 delays running at all times, 2 of which you don't notice as delays. They're just simply for the tone. So, you know, you use a simple slap and a simple short that, you know, you're not listening to it for the echo quality. You're listening to the fatten quality.
Right.
And then what I'll do is I'll ping pong the other 2 that create the delay sound. And, you know, it's something that I've always really liked the sound of. Like, I've always really liked the sound of that washy but still clear guitar, you know, like people like Steve Lukather and Dan Huff, they could get, where it was just like, it still feels atmospheric and ethereal, but there's definition to it. And, you know, over time and experimentation, I found that it's just a shit ton of delay. And the other thing too is that, you know, the timing matters, because when I first started playing and I started getting really into gear, you know, a lot of delay meant a lot of delay pedals, and you turn it on and, you know, they were in serial. So the first one sounds great. The second one sounds okay. The third one sounds a little muddy. And by the time you get to the fourth one, it's like all over the place. And you're like, oh my God, how do I stop this?
Right.
So, you know, over the years, I kind of learned that the difference of the serial and the parallel routing really made a difference to keep definition. And the difference of the timings to create the different types of delays you wanted. You know, if you're looking at stereo ping pong, you can't have them on top of each other. If you want that circular feel for the first one and then stereo, you need to make sure that you time the first ping pong slow, the original short delay quick, and then the last one to be whatever that echo you want going forward. So, you know, I find that it replaces reverb because it creates that atmosphere.
Yeah.
But that's usually my preferred setup. I also run all my effects in parallel with the amp. So rather than trying to create like a true wet, dry, wet setup, I like to call it a damp setup, where I've got a little bit of the main tone running through each head, but I also have a wet setup in each head.
Okay. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's a lot of fun when something goes wrong.
Yeah,
I would bet.
I can only imagine.
Just
Yeah,
tap
so-
the cable. Just
So
tap
setup
the cable.
time for this is just a few minutes then, I
Yeah.
guess, just to make
It
sure it's
is.
all going. Yeah.
It is, and I'll tell you why. The most amazing live pedal that was ever made for delay is the TC triple delay. It is amazing because you have 3 independent flashback delays that can be run in parallel with each other.
Okay.
So instead of having to worry about like a mixer and all that stuff, which I've done and is miserable to set up, having this one thing is just essential if you want to, for me anyway, if you want to run a rig like that.
Right. Right. And here I am.
Wow.
I think I'm really fancy using my carbon copy into the front of the amp, you know?
Love the carbon copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a delay guy, so I'm running a couple different delays. So,
and as being into delay, you realize that delays have different characters. You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
For me, the carbon copy is super dark, and like I love that because if you're going for something deeper or you're going for something that's a little bit more supposed to have that sparkle on the high end, you accentuate the low so you get the high end to pop out.
Yep.
You get other delays that are like the timeline, the Strymon timeline. One of my favorite studio delays to use.
Yep.
The issue I have with the timeline sometimes is that it always wants to be the star for me. So if I'm trying to make it so that the timeline needs to take a back seat and I'm not trying to showcase the delay, it's not worthwhile. I would rather use the timeline when I need to really show off the timeline's capabilities. So live, like I love that whole, it does one thing, you tap the button and it works. And that's when, certain types of delay pedals just come in handy, like the flashback. The flashback's just amazing for that.
Right. Yeah, I use a couple of delays myself. I use the DD20 and the the Echo Sex Baby. That one.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like that one.
Mono though out, right?
Yeah, I use that one in the Echo Sex I use in front of the amp. The DD20 I use in through a loop.
I got you.
So because I want different effects on them. Sometimes hitting it in front is really nice. So there you go.
No, I hear you.
So, yeah. All right. So how about we start getting into some of our usual segments, because those will usually last about another 20 minutes on us. So, Lenny, you want to bring up our first segment?
Okay, this is the piece of gear that you're happy with, you hate, you just purchased or are thinking about wanting to check out. This is like the gear portion of the show, not that this whole show was just about.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the gear for the last hour?
Yeah, so we're gonna bring up gear now.
Now we're gonna bring up.
Okay
gear.
with that?
I was unprepared for this.
So, Tommy, let's start with you. Is there anything new that you got, or you're thinking about, or?
Well, you know what? I got a new slide.
Oh, look at you!
So it's shorter. You know what it is? I love the brass, but it's heavy, and it's too much for you. Got to have the guitar set up for that, really. But this ceramic one that's like half a finger actually is lighter, but still has a pretty good tone to it. So it's got a good tone. It's easy. It's half the finger. I can move a little bit. So I'm digging this. I've been playing with it all for most of the day today, and I don't know. I'm just digging it because again, the brass is a great sound too. A great sound, but it's just a little too heavy, and you're putting a little too much pressure on the strings if you're playing, with a regular setup where you're picking everything. So.
Right.
I'm digging this.
Wow.
It's got a little cool tone. It's a little porous inside too, so it doesn't really.
You don't get that stinky sweat.
Yeah, you don't get that. I'm sure it'll get really gross shortly, but in the meantime, it doesn't get that slippery thing inside. So.
Right.
Anyway, that's my thing today.
Good.
New slide.
All right. Cool. All right, Joey, what do you got?
I don't really have anything new, but I did mention before we started the show that because I saw Chris had one too, is the 11 rack. Sometimes you just need a different tone on a recording, or whatever. And my 11 rack. I happen to get some great presets that were built by a guy, and sometimes just to cut through. To get a different amp. I have been using most of my amps are Marshall-esque looking. It's either the Bogno or one of these Marshalls. And sometimes to cut through on a recording, I like to use the AC's 30 patch in it. So I'm going to say the 11 rack today is, and if I just want to just jam, it's right into the computer and the interface. It's right here all the time. So it's so easy. Built-in tuner, everything. So
yeah.
11 rack. There you go.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, Chris. What do you got? What don't you have?
What are you really happy with today?
The most recent thing I picked up was the Electro Harmonix Oceans 12. The reverb.
Yeah.
It is a serious reverb. It is not the hit the button and it does one thing kind of pedal. It's very, very advanced, which is cool, especially in the current situation where options are great. Right. And it's interesting because I've only had it for I guess a couple of days. So I get most of my gear from you guys know Murphy's Music?
Murphy's Music?
Yeah. So Jordan,
where my kids get their cellos.
Well, I consider Jordan to be one of my spiritual tone advisors. So I got this pedal because I had been listening to just some samples of it. And, I'm a huge Pink Floyd nut, huge Gilmour fan. So I heard their test video, which is actually just Sorrow by Pink Floyd. And I was like, all right, I'll buy one because I have to now. Right. And I've been playing with it. It's really cool. It does ambient guitar really, really easily and really, really, really well. So I can definitely see using it on things other than guitar as well, like keyboards and just a whole host of things. Because one of the things I like about it is that it's got what I like to call practical reverb and starlight reverb. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you use this, you're not using it to emulate a hall or a room or a cathedral. You're using it to be like, listen to this effect. So it's got a lot of that. And I really like playing with that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Cool.
Very good. Lenny, do you have one?
No, I don't have anything.
Nothing this week. All right. All right. Tommy, onto your section.
Well, this is the part, and gosh, I got to try and remember what I was going to do. But anyways, it's the gear that got away, right? So something you sold, lost, somebody stole, you lent to somebody, never got it back. I think that I'm going to go with one of a Marshall I got, and I think I was in the 10th or 11th grade. I got this beautiful, after getting the nerve up to ask my dad to borrow, $300 to go and, pick up the amp at what used to be Soundtronics in Centereach, right? So they had this thing, and it was $340, and I had $40, so I, asked my dad for the other $300 and work it off, and he was not an easy man to ask things for, and he said yes, and I went and got it, and then I get there, and the guy goes, well, it's $340 plus tax, and I'm like, but he let me go, and it was a great amp, but then I took that and I traded it for a 112 Galen Kruger, which was the predecessor to the ML250. They had this like ML100, which was a 112 amp, and it was, I don't know why I did that, because maybe I didn't want to move a 412, but I got rid of that JMP50. It was a 2204. It was beautiful, and it was a great sounding amp, and it's a shame. And the Marshall was broken on the front, so it said Mars, which was really cool, I thought.
Yeah, I've had one of those too.
Yeah, that was probably mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there was a slew of people who were breaking off the Hall part and just having it say Mars. But it was a great amp, and I missed that. So that's one thing that I do miss. Though my JCM 800 is like one of the first issues, and it's just a JMP pretty much with a JCM 800 label on it. So I'm back to where I was as far as that goes. So
very cool.
That's where I was. So that was cool. Chris, what do you have that you at some point moved along from that you wish you didn't?
I don't act. That's one thing I try to not do. I don't get rid of my gear just because for this exact reason. Because I'll wake up in the middle of the night sweating, being like, oh my God, I have to get it back. I will say though that something that I don't have anymore because it died was live I use a Marshall 412, and usually the reason I use that is because most of the time if we're going to open up for a larger band, they usually have 412s behind it, so it blends in really nicely. and I always thought that they sounded like rock and roll. It's a very easy to make, because like very few cabs have a lot of quality to them, in my opinion. That you hear an amp and you're like, oh my god, that's that amp. It takes a slightly more tuned ear to be like, I know the difference between cabs. So for me, it was always kind of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And I had this Marshall cab that I used. I liked it, no problem. It fell one day and just got damaged. It wasn't usable anymore. And my attitude was, that sucks that I have to spend money to buy a new cab. I got the new cab and I was like, this doesn't sound as good as the one that fell.
Oh.
And it was like one of those things where it's like, I guess I was a little guilty because I guess I didn't appreciate what I had. But I was like, wow, I can't believe that I can actually, this isn't just a replaceable thing. And this was early on in our touring. And since then, I've been very, very, very careful about any of my gear, because I'm like, it actually does matter. Like, I have a pedal that I've had forever that's kind of like twitchy. It has power problems. It sounds unique. I'll never get rid of it. I don't know if I can rely on it live, but if I'm like, I need that sound, it will always have a place to come out.
Right.
So I learned my lesson.
Very
cool. It's amazing that early on in my career, I didn't realize that speakers made a difference, really.
Yeah.
It didn't, a Carvin cabinet, a Fender 412, a V4, Ampeg. They all sound different, but a Marshall and the build that they did is just, it sounds like rock.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you know what the problem is too, especially for like guitar players. So what do you play? You play the guitar. Don't, when you say that, you say I play the guitar. What you don't say is I play the pickup. I play the pick. I play the tuner.
We talked about that too, man. Right down to the pick.
It's true, yeah.
I've gone through all sorts of stuff, and finally, I'm sticking with the Dunlop 208, and just has been perfect for me. It's big, it's sharp, it's fast, and just I like the Petrucci's, but they're too small and they tear up my finger because it gets too close. But this thing is just a big, beast of a pick, and it's perfect for me.
It all matters, It
all does. And I can hear it now when people are playing. Yeah. I'm going, he's using a nylon pick. He's using, he's using cellulose. He's using, there's a guy playing steel. It's amazing.
Yeah, and you condition yourselves to focus on those. I religiously use the Dunlop's 1.14 Tortexes. I won't use anything else. I like it. It works for me, and it won't go anywhere. But then all of a sudden, you have something happen. Like in the instance of my cab, I was forced upon me. But I've changed out pickups, and I've been like, oh my god, this was possible, and then all of a sudden you're like, you kick yourself. You're like, what else could I do? And then you go down this tunnel of gear acquisition where you now think you're actually trying to find something new, and you say to someone, hey, listen to this, and like, Chris, you sound the exact same way you did yesterday.
No, I don't. No, it's not the same.
I know.
Yeah, only the guitar player hears it, Not
exactly. Yeah. Isn't that enough, though?
Yeah, that's all that matters.
So.
That's all that matters.
Completely.
What do you mean you can't hear it? That cable cost me, $200 fucking dollars, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did the I did those really expensive cables for a while. I did lava cables for a long time, and I hounded them so much I made them give me an artist deal on it, and then they all get stolen. They all got stolen at gigs, and now I'm just buying whatever shit I can find.
Cabling matters.
Yeah, it does.
It's funny. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago talking about, well, I think we started with Eric Johnson, just talking about someone who's so particular about,
Doesn't he claim to be able to hear the difference between outlet power and battery, though?
Yeah, he can tell the difference between a carbon battery and an alkaline battery.
I don't doubt that, but
I don't doubt it either.
That's a level,
Yeah, that's it. Right. Like I can hear the difference between different picks that people are playing when they're recording, but he was talking about the reason why your stuff doesn't sound like Jimi Hendrix did, because you're not using a shitty Radio Shack cable plugged into a pedal that's running not an Energizer but like a Rayovac carbon battery and everything.
Right.
That's
reliability versus
Yeah. Well, that's something too that's very interesting about touring, especially at the level where things are so inconsistent. Because, what'll happen is that we've been very fortunate to play some very nice places, very, very high end, take care of you, top stuff around, and we've also played some places that are just you need a tetanus shot before you go in. So, depending on where you are, my biggest qualm is always the power. How dirty is your power? And I say that to people all the time, and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I carry a power conditioner with me because I'm like, "Look, this will actually fundamentally change the sound of my amp. It's not like it's going to color it or whatever. It'll have crackling. It'll do this. It'll do that. It is one of the few things that will always change." And we realized this early on because we were having these shows where like one night it would be like, wow, the guitar is it's speaking. And then the next night, no one touched a knob.
Right, and it's garbage.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, how is this possible? And and then you start going internally. Did I play differently? Was it humid out? I mean, God knows what you come up with to kind of justify it. Power is a huge, huge issue. I mean, even in the studio here, like everything is power conditioned. Everything is a Megami cable. So there's consistency across the board so that we always know it's the same thing. Out on the road, there's no consistency.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot.
Absolutely.
When they bring up the lights and you just hear the amp just go.
Yeah.
Like, what was that?
Absolutely.
My favorite is the surprise fog. So that's my favorite variable because Pat. Our singer, Pat is he's a great singer, but he's also a very, very knowledgeable of how to sing singer. So his singing is very healthy and his singing is done in a very artful way. So whether you like it or not, up to you, but he does it the right way, right? That means taking very deep breaths, really coming from the right place in a clean, healthy way. Because of that, we just ask for no fog because he just ends up just inhaling it constantly and it's not a good thing. Sometimes we don't even think about it because, there's no fog machine. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there'll be the geyser of fog and it'll scare the hell out of us.
Yeah.
Because, and then you get the smart ass, some of the people are like, it's not fog, it's haze. And I'm like, what? And then there's the machine shooting it and it's just like.
You didn't say no haze. You said no fog.
You said no fog, man.
It's our fault.
Yeah.
We're the idiots, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, so let's go on to the final section here, which is everybody's favorite section, the fuck you section. So this is actually not a bad thing. If you're saying fuck you to somebody, it means you're giving them a big, huge compliment. So we never let the guests go first so that they can get a feeling of how it goes. Although some people seem to have a different outlook on what part of the show is. But what are you going to do? So Tommy, go ahead. Let's give a fuck you first.
Well, let's think because it's only been a couple of days, and I'm trying to think of what I've been listening to. Because usually I base it upon that because I've been going through this thing where I've been listening to this stoner rock and almost virtually no vocals and just great fuzz guitars and just these fuzz bass and fuzz drums pretty much it sounds like half the time. The stuff is so good. And I've been listening to still the band Mother Engine, which I just think is just killer as far as this goes. So those guys, and it's hooky too. It's not just we've talked about, there's instrumental records, but then there's instrumental rock records like Satriani would make, right? So it's like you can hum along with that. It's not just, impossible to understand like Mahavishnu Orchestra. It's just, melodic stuff. And I think the same thing happens with Mother Engine. So I think those guys should really, they're European, I think, and they should fuck themselves because they should not come to America. I'm glad COVID's keeping them there and not coming here, so I see them live and it really pisses me off.
I see, because they're too good.
They're too good. It's
Absolutely.
just when you hear a band that can really, really use fuzz with good clarity and just beautiful definition, but really just kind of sound like Velcro being ripped, it blows my mind.
I understand.
Yeah. So I'm not, I can't get that down. I can't make a fuzz pedal sound anything except for, a fuzz.
It's just not to hijack your fucking.
Yeah, take it, man.
What's amazing? Hold on a second. If you want amazing fuzz, and I feel like it's like a commercial. This thing.
That's the one? I'll get that.
Buffalo Patriot.
Okay.
So, again, my forever quest to become Dave Gilmour. This thing has the smoothness, but also that hair on top that is it's manageable. It's amazing. Like the Big Muff is great, but this is a different take on it that is just it's if you like that fuzz thing, this is life changing in my opinion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I use the on the board for a couple of things. I have a nice full tone octafuzz in it, and it's great.
Sure.
It's really, I don't really use it probably as much as I should, or actually get a good thing. And I also have one of the fuzz factories, which is incredible range as far as what a fuzz would do. So you can just tweak the hell out of that. I don't think I could ever use it live because it's too tweakable, and I think that if you knock one thing on a a 5 knobs thing, you're done. So anyway, I just love it. I mean, you have a great fuzz too, Joe. You have the Wampler, right? The Velvet.
I got the Wampler Velvet fuzz, and then
that's a beautiful sounding fuzz.
And then the $30 fucking orange thing.
I know. I got to get that. Behringer makes a hyper fuzz for like $30.
Yeah, it's $30, and he kicked the Wampler off the board. It has a couple of different changes to things to it, and it's just fucking. It really sounds good. Yeah. Usually, I make fuzz sound like a complete ass. But I ended up using it just for a recording thing, and it was amazing. It just hit the right spot. So
yeah.
So Lenny, give me your fuck you. What do you got? Who do you got?
Well, it's a little bit out of the box for me. We're listening to a guy by the name of Walter Trout. I don't know if you know the name.
Yeah.
Contemporary blues guitarist, singer-songwriter. I was in the car coming back from work, and I was flipping through the satellite radio, and someone came on, shed a tear on my shoulder, and I just grabbed me, and I was just like, this is amazing. And so I started researching a lot more of his material, and the guy's just unbelievable. Definitely like a contemporary blues genre, but it's just so expressive in the way he plays. Unlike a Joe Bonamassa, the guy's just, I'm just like, screw it. The hell with you. That's how good I thought he was.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. That's good stuff.
Yeah. I recently, I knew the name, but I never really got into his stuff, but I heard that one song and I heard how he was playing and the tone he was getting. And it's very stripped back, Fender Stratocaster, obviously through an amp, and everything else was just about the song and well written. And everything he's done I love everything he's done so far that I've heard. So makes me feel good. So he gets an FU for that.
Right. Awesome. All right, I'll do a quick one. Mine's going to be very quick. We don't do the fuck yous for the artists during the show, and to talk about our last show. Obviously, I was not going to do Randy Rhoads because we had some of his best friends there. Although I know they'll be watching tonight too, so I'm going to do a big fuck you to Randy Rhoads for. Really inspiring me to be a guitar player. I was a bass player, and he inspired me. And I've gone through the gamut of trying to look like him at times. With the haircuts, it doesn't look like it right now. I get it, but going to the Les Pauls and everything else. And on top of Randy, a big fuck you to Kim for really giving us some incredible fucking stories the other night.
Oh yeah, that was great.
When you get a text from somebody who said they got choked up listening to him, that was rough, man. That was good. So Chris, we're gonna put you in the spotlight. Give us a fuck you, somebody that that is so good. You say, "Fuck you! Why are you here?"
All right, so I'll tell you a story then.
Yeah.
Good. Is it about Sharon?
We're on the road. We're in Minneapolis, and a lot of times we do like if we're out for say like 20 days or like 15 days, we'll do most of the shows as the headlining band, and then we'll do a couple of shows as an opening band for a national artist that's much larger than we are. And we were opening for Y&T that night.
Oh,
So I like Y&T. I mean, you know, I'm familiar with it.
Joey.
I mean, like, I'm familiar with their music. There's no surprise that Dave Meniketti is a great singer and great guitar player.
No question.
Done. Yeah, exactly. I knew there was going to be a great guitar player on stage. Not a problem. You know, we've toured with Lynch Mob. I know what I'm going to expect with George Lynch. Like, he's like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a surprise. Like, wow, he could play that well. No, I know that.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, who is this guy? So, the venue we were playing at, it was a place called Pickle Park, and it probably held like maybe 1,000 people if the place was completely packed. But the venue was set up so that there was a restaurant that wrapped around in a U, and then a stage on the other side of the U. So I would say that at any given time, you could probably see about a third of the whole venue, and the people beyond your site were having dinner. So I usually like to eat before I play. I'm not a nervous person on stage, so it doesn't bother me. And so like I usually will just try to eat something before we get on. And because we're the opening band, we're going to probably sound check, run back, and then play. Because, you know, Y&T has the day to sound check before we go. So we get to the venue early. I know they have food. And I'm like, well, I have to eat during Y&T sound check, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to eat before I play. So I'm like literally sitting there having whatever I'm eating. I'm sitting next to Emmy, our bass player, and Emmy's like I am. Like Emmy, we talk about gear all the time. We talk about the players we like. And Dave Meniketti steps on stage, and I swear to God, whatever he did, it made me actually like spit out my food. And I was just like, what? And then what normally would be like admiration and be like kind of like, oh my God, what an amazing experience to see this guy, turned into just palpable fear. And like I was just like, I have to play before him? And I was just like I don't usually get like that. And I just completely freaked out. So we got up on stage to like sound check, and I don't know if you guys have ever played with Y&T or ever met them.
Yep.
Hands down the nicest human beings.
Yeah.
They're not only just like people who you'd be like surprised because they're very advanced of what they've done. They're just like cool people. So like they're sitting there watching our sound check, and now I'm on stage and I'm like looking at him, and like he's just like I'm like paralyzed with fear. So we get through the sound check, and Pat the singer comes over to me and he goes, "You okay?" I'm like, "Pat, I'm gonna have to sit this one out." I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen when we get on stage. I'm like, you have to carry the band for the night. I said, because like I can't perform with them looking at us. So like we're playing, and you know they're not there because they're probably back at the hotel room. 2 songs at the end, I see him walking in. He gives me the thumbs up because he's such a nice person, and I'm just like in fear, like that he's like watching me. And it was like I don't even know what I played that night. I was just like so overwhelmed.
Dave has gotten many fuck yous from me.
Yeah,
here already.
It would be the same. I would feel that way, like if like Warren DeMartini was standing in front of me, going, just watching me play. I'm like,
arms folded.
My hand would just go like,
yeah.
But you know what though, and so you know what made it worse? It's why they were watching. See, that's the problem, because so we've opened up for a lot of people that I definitely would consider heroes of mine, and some of them are great, some not so much. And, you know, I mean, like one thing I have learned, and I'm fortunate to have learned this, I guess, but like people are people, and there are good people and there are shitty people. And it doesn't matter what you've achieved, you're still a good person or a shitty person.
Right. So, doesn't matter what you do.
Exactly. So, you know, if someone wants to be a shitty person, can't stop it. Dave Meniketti, good person. literally watching us because he wants to either support us, was interested in my art, or was just trying to be like a genuinely good human being. So whatever reason he had to be there, it was for good intentions. Yet it completely shut me down because I'm just like fearful looking at him being like, I can't do what you do, nor will I ever understand it. Stop looking at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's another one of those people who's just another level too. But being nice on top of that, you know, that's absolutely been an ongoing theme on our show. We've had the nicest people, including yourself, who are gentlemen, warm, inviting, and really just want to talk about this stuff and just hang out and just talk about playing. And I love the fact you call it art, and you know it is our art. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
It's us painting.
Or you know, in my case, it's just hack. So
yeah, I know you're like Jackson Pollock without any talent, but it's not really important. So, but yeah, it's you know, I'm still working on not being a dick.
I'm usually surprised because we've gotten to open for a lot of people that we admire. I'm usually surprised at how different people will approach us because you know, there's usually that 30-second passing in the hall, so you don't have time to actually say anything of consequence. So usually you want to say, have a good show, break a leg, good job out there, whatever. You know, it's some platitude that you know is coming, but you want to make the gesture. And then you get into situations where you don't expect someone to want to carry on a conversation, and all of a sudden they will. You know, like for instance, like, you know, George Lynch is a huge hero of mine. And we did a run of shows with them at some really cool places. And I don't remember why, but we did 4 nights in a row with them, I think. And like on the second night, he knew that we were the same band, you know, and he recognized it. And, you know, very nice, very, very nice person. But I happened to be like next to him, and he literally said to me, he's like, what are you doing with your, like, you know, guitar tone here? And I was like, excuse me, George Lynch?
Excuse me, George Lynch? George Lynch says what?
Yeah, exactly. And like, so like I mentioned that we recorded an EP with Michael Wagner, who did the, you know, the Dokken records with him. And he was just like, how did you feel about getting the guitar tone with Michael? And I was like, good. Like, it's just like, how do you respond, you know?
It's good, George Lynch.
Yeah, exactly. I felt good about my experience, similar to how you probably felt when you played one of the most iconic solos in The Hunter of all time. Yeah, I got it. Good. You know?
Felt exactly like that.
Yeah.
George Lynch.
Yeah, it's weird though. I mean, because like literally that it's happened, and like it's happened to all of us. It's not just like a guitar player thing, you know. It's weird. It's just like we played a show, an outdoor show in Connecticut, opening up for the Guess Who, and Rudy Sarzo was playing bass for them. So yeah. You know, we're getting off stage, and it was a logistical nightmare, the show, because we had to park our bus far away from the grounds, and they wouldn't let anything load out until a certain, like, there was like 100 yards or something. So we had to move all the gear, and we have help, which is we're fortunate for, but like we had to move everything to a loading area, then have everyone get the bus, reload it. So it was just a nightmare. And we're getting off stage, and I saw Rudy Sarzo, and I was like, Emmy, our bass player, I'm like, Emmy, I'm like, Rudy Sarzo. And he's like, should I lick my thumb? I'm like, I don't know, just talk to him. Like, say something, say that you're a fan. And he like goes over, and Rudy Sarzo is like about to come on stage. He literally just stops. He's like, hey man, thanks so much. Yeah, I dig what you're doing. And they started a conversation. And I was like, really?
I can't get past should I lick my thumb.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you know, we've been fortunate. Yeah. You know, we've met crazy people too, but you know, for the most part, we've met some really good people. In fact, you know, Joey and I met passing in the hall. That's how we met. So
there you go. It's a special thing when you really take care of what you do, and you hold that with you throughout the years. You know, I mean, again, we're not like a new band, but we're definitely a younger band compared to a lot of bands we've played with, and it's encouraging, it's exciting, but it's also you know, it fills you with some sort of like adrenaline almost to see that someone who might be tired of doing whatever they do just really likes doing it. You know, I mean, like they really just, you know, again, like they get on stage, they play a song that you know they've played a million times, and you can see in their eye they really like playing that song, and it's just incredibly encouraging.
Great.
Yeah, that's something you can fake. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the passion comes out.
No, absolutely. So yeah.
All right. Joseph? Did we freeze?
Sorry.
No, we all stopped
Mute.
moving. That was cool, though, for a second. Like,
Wow. No.
I think
Did
it
we-
froze.
You know what's the worst thing is, no, I'm talking away, and I realize if I have a mute button on. I got a new mute button,
You didn't turn the cable on.
and I'm not that good at it, obviously.
you gotta turn the cable on. Oh, we're gonna use that from now on in the show. Did you
Gotta
turn the
tap it.
cable on?
I gotta tap the mic. Testing. Anyway, so
Wait, is this the camera?
Chris, let's hawk your wares. Tell us your website.
Stationband.com.
Awesome. And
Everything's
where do they,
social.
Where do they get your
Station
material?
Band.
Like, what else are you selling? Come on, let's get you some money, man.
Everything's available on iTunes and Google and all
Okay.
that.
Everything's available everywhere. So we just released our third record in November, Stained Glass.
Stained Glass,
We're very
right.
proud of this record, and it's called Stained Glass because it's a compilation of songs that we've written over the last several years. So they represent different periods of time for us. And since we recorded it all last summer, it was interesting to take a song that was written by 25-year-old Chris Lane and reinterpreted by 30-year-old Chris Lane, and we like that stuff. So yeah, and Len is in our music video for the lead single off of it, A Matter
Awesome.
of Time.
That's why we
That's
had Len on
that's
this show
cool.
today.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome.
It was
So,
such
Grace,
a cool experience. I remember it being really cold that night.
It was the
like a-
coldest night last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a Sunday night. I had to be at work like 5 a.m. and
kept you there for like 3.
till 3, yeah. And I'm like, I didn't have a jacket. I'm like, dude, I gotta go. You stayed till like 6 or something, right?
Yeah, well, so I don't know if you've seen the music video, but the music video, it's about 2 werewolves, and one of the things that I didn't realize would take so much time is that throughout the video, normally if you shoot a music video that's got segments, it doesn't matter how you shoot it because later on you edit it together. It's not a problem. With the werewolf thing, though, because we had to shoot it all in one night, we had to shoot it sequentially because the werewolf progressively turns into a werewolf. So you can't be like,
Transformations.
yeah, you can't be like 20% werewolf once, 80% werewolf, 30% werewolf. You have to go in order.
right.
That would screw everything up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can't go full werewolf. So,
Yeah.
Don't go full werewolf.
don't go full werewolf. So, Len actually in the very, very last scene. So, because he sees the werewolves and runs away, and they need to be full werewolves by then. So, being that it was like negative 10 degrees outside, we filmed it at Cush's in Massapequa.
Yeah.
And it was just a logistical nightmare to try to get everything on schedule, keep everyone there, and film outside in this amazingly cold weather. So it was an experience.
Well worth it. When you look at the end
Cool.
result.
So,
Like,
Great video.
Yeah, and that's the video that was in the front of the interview. So everybody will have at least seen part of it anyway.
Excellent.
I know you guys don't know, but I was actually showing part of it during this interview too. So there's cut scenes in here too. So everybody will have seen a good piece of it anyway. So
Cool. Thank
Chris,
you.
thanks so much for coming on and giving us your
Thanks for
time.
having me.
yeah.
It was great. It was a great time. Anybody that talks about gear and loves the gear as much as you do is perfect for our show. So
Well, let me know what
Man,
you
I
want to do.
I got an education listening to him talk tonight.
yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait till we're live again because it'll be great seeing you and seeing your band again. So we
Yeah.
look forward to it, man.
Yeah.
What we should
I
do,
mean, I haven't seen you forever. I guess this is the next thing,
Yep.
well, since we all actually live on the same island,
Yes.
like when live shows start, we should just have like how like bands try to like theme themselves with their genre. It's like, oh, this is a rock show, a doom metal show. We should have a delay show.
Yeah.
Oh, we should do that, man.
Right.
We can absolutely do that because, and we can actually just hit loopers and walk off too.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much. We're
Thank
gonna
So
sign
generous,
off.
man. Thank you for everything. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Chris.
Take care, guys.
Talk to you soon, brother.
See you guys later.
Okay.